We'll talk about the ancients. We'll talk about the moderns and the Grand Lodges and how the operative Masons are responding to this seemingly rapid um, travel of news. Um, when we just count those years in the beginning instead of today as well, 2024, that news, I think it will still travel pretty fast. But over essence in education and learning and history, Freemasonry, well, I'm not sure if it has anything to do with it, the actual rates of speed which the news travels, because what Freemasonry is. Um, but in response to the first schism in Freemasonry, a title, I'm marveled because I've brethren today alive, sisters as well, who are so generous of human beings to and allow me access to these kinds of documents. I could be reading this morning, uh, this afternoon, later on this evening, tonight, about Freemasonry, long before my time. Um, so it's quite unique to be. I was on 44 years old, and I was sworn in when I was 18 years old. I'm a Lewis, and I'm still young in the generational way, somewhat a leader or scholar in decade, but I'm really joyous to even be able to read not the 40th schism of Freemasonry, or the 18th one, the 100th one celebrating its century or 100-year anniversary, but what is the first schism in Freemasonry? That is pretty powerful to have access to this document or information, in my opinion. So we learn that, hey, according to some, a schism exists, and then since it's been mentioned, there's great debate over whether the facts are solid truths or not. Dates are given. People have performed research. Others as well, and they've come up with different course, if you will, of history and establishment and founding of Grand Lodges. Uh, we're talking America, English, England throughout it, also Ireland. Uh, we're talking London, we're talking Scotland. So within your nation, there's a lot of lodging that's possible. So you don't just do it one lodge, just your nation's it's one continent. It's a lot of Freemasonry going on within each continent where Freemasonry exists. I would imagine. Um, so, Brother Jenkins, I recognize as a brother. He says that with the dates and all, this schism, that these things that him supporting the claims they don't exist. Well, that's strange. Well, somebody else has already spoken on them as if they do exist. So what do you do when you're in this type of a counter? Hmm? You start to buckle your seatbelt and explore the crowd of Freemasonry. And I personally am comfortable through the Philatete Society, the right to Philatete in terms of education, North American Freemasonry, because it's most important where the Philalethes are concerned. Um, Over a series of what we've already read or went through before, schisms, and nobody's going to be able to prove somebody else is wrong, right? This is why we make disclaimers as Freemasons when we do speak on panels or symposiums, frankly, anywhere, anytime that is considered to be charitable as well, which is that the statements or the things I say don't stand for Freemasonry, nor any Freemason. These are my opinions, my own perspective. And so, in these kinds of customs or manners, I'm not sure when such manner was first put into ordinance for Freemasonry. To make that disclaimer that what you say is not um, a reflection of the stance of Freemasonry. That you're not speaking on behalf of anyone in the fraternity. You yourself are an individual independently capable of giving your opinion about what you're learning. And so, having said that, I want to extend an 850 area code, a 321-9215 number to you in case you want to call in, give a comment, send a text, email me, and chat further here on the first schism in Freemasonry, where there is a response about the Grand Lodges, about the moderns Grand Lodges, about the ancients Grand Lodges, where these lodges are, where they were founded, today where they are through lodges that have obtained charters from them, yeah, to establish lodges. And this will come from, you know, Master Masons, okay, the only uh, ranking Mason who is at liberty and jurisprudence to establish a lodge. Okay, the first degree not so, and the second degree not so. The third degree possible, um, because it's so fascinating of a journey through Freemasonry. If you're one like myself who thinks every single Mason is a Mason, who's not got a distinction between a regular or regular, uh, or clandestine or non-clandestine, right? Bogus or no bogus. If you think Masonry is Masonry, like I do, then you are really reaching out to a world of Masonry. Whenever you do, you're not just being sublime or circumferencing your own master degree, in my opinion. And this geography could teach us. I'm in belief of. It's very big, but when we have a commercial syndicate on divisions and certain boundaries across geographical landmasses, rather, where you're supposed to go, you got your line posts up where your water meter is, and no one's supposed to cross it. If you breach it, you're property trespassing, etc. That way, and your world of Freemasonry it shrinks immensely, really small, and you also lose percent value from your craft, what value your craft is, in that uh, minimization of actually accessible space, available space, into a smaller space, and then you take your additional decreases of based on your curriculum. So, to each his own. I'm not sure. Obviously, we know we've grand lodges, they exist, and we've charters, they exist, we've jurisdictions, they exist. And then all of them are running the same because we're running them and obedience with the laws of government in order to continue to run lodges. Yeah. So in North America, where there's democracy, the people rule is what democracy means. Here in the West, Western civilization, uh, and so for me to have the platform as broad and wide as possible, you know, as it exists, is more essential. A different country may be taking a different approach. As far as I'm concerned, though, the right of Philalethes, which was found in Paris in 1772, here through the United Grand Lodge of England, governed by the Quarter Coronati Lodge, number 2076, Correspondence Circle, the Philalethes Society, North America's largest independent and oldest independent Masonic research body, established in 1928, is an effective education platform about North American Freemasonry. How do I get there? Well, I get here because I want to look at it again as a fun experience. And so to me, it's irrelevant who's right or wrong when we read upon these debates and this controversy that we can imagine. We can get there with imagery that people are scurrying back and forth, leg runners, toting briefcases, what have you, important documents. You can't spill your drop of coffee on it. Uh, you know, Between your home and your boss's hands with a document like the response to the first schism in Freemasonry. If you've that document when it's first occurred to deliver to a Grand Master, for example, and your lodge, tomorrow, if you go home, you got to manage not to let anything happen to this document. You've got to remain a member of your household and play your role in the home, and you've got to remember you're also a Freemason. And the history of your Grand Lodge is relying on your integrity and your cogency. Yeah. So these things get into personal development, things that exercise the mind and enriching civilization, humanity's history and civilization, where we've come from, how we've done that, and we still today kind of relate to it and connect it to the future perspectives we may have. That we're not in loss because we're in 2024 and these things have happened in the 16th century or the 17th century. Here in the 21st century, we're still aboard the Freemasonic um, rituals, that just go far back, well earlier than 1717. However, when we have some organization in the record on Grand Lodges and Freemasonry and our operative masonry, um, 1717 is the earliest that we can find. Now, our minds are telling us a lot more. It's way earlier. What can we find? Can we prove that? Can we make this substantial evidence or material to a Freemason on a platform, right? This is the essence of North American education. And so, componentially, North American Freemasonry is more important in terms of Freemasonry than anything else, according to the Philalethes Society. And so that's why I enjoy the article. I enjoy each and every one of them because education's bigger than just a journey through history. You know, it's got a lot to do with how a person builds as a being. And these are ways that are non-verbally communicated that educate others in that same manner. And so I'm learning a lot here, looking at something lot here, though. Just studying, and I hope that those brethren and sisters who are at odds about Grand Lodge history, who are not wanting some brethren into lodges or sisters into chapters because of the Grand Lodge, or not recognizing their charter, to become reconciled over what the differences are, what the difference is, so you can embrace the wealth of the craft. You can understand a brother and a sister when you see one. You can make more practical use and sense of what you learn in your lodge as well. Believe it or not, it's my opinion. I'm pro Blue Lodge, supports of the Craft Lodge. The first 3 degrees are foundational uh, priorities. No matter how far in life Freemasonry takes us as Masons. Um, because so we're Grand Lodges, what they're talking about. Well, where was it and when? Okay, and this is why we also make another disclaimer that we don't discuss politics nor religion in the lodge, for probably obvious reasons. Some might disagree, and I respect that absolutely. Um, but where was it? Huh? And so when was it? Okay. Uh, and according to who these things have taken place? Yeah. Yeah. And then, well, in that time, which you talk about in that place as well, our Grand Lodges, from what we have learned about our Grand Lodge was XYZ at certain time. And we are in such and such a place. We're here, not there. But we've been there, we've learned. And in a time where, we've to believe that XYZ is something that we have to take the credit for, etc., etc. And they say, well, I don't think you really are hearing me clearly. I just plainly stated the disposition or stance of myself in the lodge. Uh, this has nothing to do with Grand Lodge history, etc. I'm building the dialogue I personally would prefer to choose, instead of arguing or losing concentration while engaged in Masonic intercourse as a Mason with another brother, um, like they are doing, in my opinion. So yeah, it's simply not truly concentrating enough on being a Mason, and a lot of it is on Masonry, which is going to be an elevating thing here in a few hours for me today, mate, because I'm scheduled to attend one of the most phenomenal lectures I've never heard before, but I no doubt it's going to be one of ever, and I've said it before, but hey, sometimes replacements happen, don't they? That I've ever had the opportunity to attend. The reason why is because it's titled Meaning of Masonry. And so, we're going to be looking at some of these submissive natures that some of the members in the fraternity are cultivating through some type of a lens, obviously. that hopefully will empower them and influence them positively to act towards one another. As it is in fraternity, we meet upon the level of equality, we act by the plumb of uprightness, and we part upon the square of virtues. And so, to encourage them, inspire, influence them positively, action towards uprightness by the plumb instead. So, uh, I'm going to enjoy that, and it's going to have a little bit, hopefully, in there that will facilitate those of us who are just having the funnest time of our lives, to be able to reach out with brotherly love, obviously, not disrespect, uh, not negativity, education, guidance, temperance, and fortitude, prudence, and justice to those brothers and sisters. My theory for saying such is that it's not that they intend to be that way. It's the way they're being instructed in their lodges, by their grand lodges. Okay? Yeah, I mean, that's all the more reason to not, you know, create an issue. It's not a problem, it's an issue because we're human beings. And when a human being doesn't like your company, and it's somewhere you personally have the right and liberty to be, such as where you can go and join a fraternity, your own constitutional right, whatever liberties you are embracing or harnessing there, it's quite inconvenient to have someone else who's utilized the exact same alley or avenue as you have from their own respective direction, and all of a sudden create this storm we've all got to sit through, right? I beg to differ with you in such case. You don't have to sit through it. It's your perception of it. You have to take responsibility for your own perception, your own experience in the fraternity. And so if it leads you to think no one's loyal or real, then the fraternity doesn't apparently work for you. Because outside of the lodge, those human beings are very real and very regular in certain places, coffee shops, gas stations, grocery stores, you name it, right? So we're going to have this interesting time. I think it starts around 11 or 12 today. Today, I'm not sure, 11 or 12, maybe. I think it's noon from, so it is, it's a 3 hour lecture. And 3 hours of fellowship, yeah. Learning, education. You can't foresee or foretell what somebody else's take on what you hear is going to be. Yeah. Yeah, we all know go online, look it up, Google it. But how do you perceive what you're reading? How do you pick through the lines? And what messages are you getting? And then how do those things compile with what research you've done in the past? That's governing your insight on how much volume-wise you're going to lean up for us to hear, and how much you're going to suppress so that we don't get anyone thrown off track, etc. Right? You can't dictate another human being's state of mental state, in my opinion, and in my professional opinion. So, um, I think I'm going to what else? Something else. I just want to say also some other things, like as a broadcaster. I am a broadcast journalism major, by the way. I'm very aware not everybody who likes to be on the devices are truly professional pioneers of those devices. Uh, and so, you can cue me in, cue me out. Either way, I'm on live correspondence circle footage because I'm a state associated broadcast journalism major college, right? so I can just say some hellos to people, and make an even brilliant Sunday morning here in the Florida jurisdiction, which is a state of free and accepted Masons. Florida, by the state, some of them are wherever there is lodges. Some of them are FNAM states, jurisdictions rather, and some of them are ancient AF and AM jurisdictions. Florida's an FNAM, which is my home state. So I'm a free and accepted Mason. However, as a master Mason, as a Grand Master, I've become affiliated with my ancient free and accepted Mason brothers and sisters in the chapters. And ancient accepted, any of them again. I don't create those types of divisions that some might. So the Illinois Lodge of Research, hello and thank you. The most worshipful Grand Lodge of ancient free and accepted Masons, the state of Illinois jurisdiction, which again, obviously, unlike Florida, is an ancient free and accepted Mason state. Anywhere, it doesn't matter if it's 12,000 cities in Illinois, in them when you find a lodge, it's ancient free and accepted Mason lodge. In Florida, vice versa. You know, so states of California jurisdiction. I've got lots of good brothers in California lodges in the California jurisdiction. The Texas jurisdiction, where my Shriner brothers are, um, in the Hella Shrine, as well as the Tallahassee Valley. In the Dallas Valley, we've got Shriners working hard. I can mention here, we're pretty busy on the Hella Shrine Temple and the ancient Arabic Order of Nobles of the Mystic Shrine, as originally we were called, and eventually uh, Shriners International, and then what's now current, the Shriners, um, with promoting activities that take us away from so much of history and controversy to golf tournaments, shooting range, gun range, lobby type, outdoor sport recreation activities we've coordinated, along with the great help of Brother Dempsey, my Masonic coordinator of Washington, D.C., the Kent Duke Masonic Grand Lodge. This is my photo ID. It has Kent Duke Masonic Lodge, really nice and legible there, as well as the signature of Brother Dempsey, our Masonic coordinator. We've coordinated these things, and these are over the Conference of Grand Masters of Masons in North America. Well, with those who we don't get into the controversy, we're having fun. Yeah. And so, we've the brotherhood, the organization, to our favor, more or less. And having said that, we coordinated some things that are just, you know, family oriented. In the shrine, even the grottos. And I'm not saying even the grottos. There was no dear the grottos, capable, of course. But in all essence, all of us brethren who are in appendant bodies that wear fez, we do, I would think, the majority over the blue lodges and what have you, of coordinating activities that entire families are welcome to attend and encouraged throughout the temples. Um, to the fellow nobles, to bring family with you. Or St. Jude Children's Hospitals and other Shriners Hospitals charities. We're, really impacting people. So, yeah, to the New York jurisdiction, in the Western New York Research Lodge number 9007. Thank you, for your contributions to Freemasonry. Yeah, to for your efforts to help promulgate the studies Freemasonry has to offer, which meant much of it is the same as you could find in post-secondary education. Although Freemasonry should disclose here is post-secondary education. And so you go to college, you don't get smarter than Freemasons. When you join Freemasonry, you get smarter than colleagues. All right. So some philosophy there. Which brings me to the Masonic Philosophical Society. And the Saint Germain Lodge, number 1917, 17. I can't think of that number off the top of my head, the charter. But it is also I think it's promulgated as the Grand Orient de France, the Universal or Co-Masonry, that particular obedience that sponsors created the Masonic Philosophical Society. I enjoy that endeavor as well, again with other Masonic brethren, sisters. I enjoy the learning experience I'm currently encountering at the Masonic Institute of Fine Arts, where I'm currently enrolled. I enjoy the lectures and the homework from our brother who instructs the Masonic Seminar Series. The Louisiana jurisdiction. Uh, um, I'm very grateful for the guidance I get, the patience you have with me, um, learning the ropes of employment position on the floor in the financial department through which I'm cashier, as well as Grand Master in the Grand Lodge. So I obtained an employment opportunity, commission, etc. And that's a different plateau from just the fraternal um, perspective. It gets clerical, and it does call for some standard skill. I've not even been there a year yet, but this year, of course, coming upon it, I see the month again this year that marks the anniversary of the Illuminati Masonic Lodge legend, which is the same month in which America obtained independence, which is July. I will be embarking my year at the Grand Lodge of Louisiana as a cashier. So, that being said, I'm very thankful, humbled, um, giving recognition to the Grand Master predecessor me. I still hold on to his coattail. Hey, to ask, how should I go about this? How should I do that? As Master of the Lodge, currently me, uh, I'm, I've got a strong hold on this coattail. Okay, instead of what some do, which is try to spread their own wings because, well, it's logical. I'm more into philosophy when it comes to the fraternity, making it worth a lifetime experience. Yeah, I don't want to do it in one day on one night. You know, so in order to cope with that type of travesty, yeah, I stick to my studies. I take topics, I spread them out, break them down by subpoints, points to subpoints, to subpoints, supporting points, and research each one separately and get mass information as well as um, substantial equity to stand in person with the Mason and uh, discuss these traditions. Yeah. And I call them traditions using an adjective just to avoid as much of a redundance as possible. Okay. Um, it's one way to practice proficiency. Yeah, you don't want to become just a memory, a memory spell. You want to know how these things really have something to do with you as a person. And I find that at this point, if you're at this point I'm at, you would have long ago become a master mason, let alone an entered apprentice mason or fellow craft mason. If you are here, you should have some value in the meaning of the working tools symbolically and what those mean, right? I would imagine and hope. So all is all is in a day of a 24-inch gauge, no matter what today. But I'm so at joy to be a part of the fraternity because, well, unlike what I thought before I was in the fraternity, older brethren who I would have imagined with those grumpy type or military type, make you get your lesson and get on with it, are really floating like feathers in the wind as well, just to make sure this doesn't happen in one day or one night. And so I appreciate them, their vibes, their charisma, charm, and their guarantee or assurance to me in the generation I'm growing up in. That Freemasonry is here for me to enjoy, not to feel, uh, in danger of. Okay, so one of those is the brother who initiated me, who's passed away to the Grand Lodge up above now. But it's who gave me a real first chance to put to use these talents and gifts of mine. Otherwise, I would still be doing them on the same old commercial platform. People would know me as a musician or recording artist, a performer or entertainer. And that's all business at the end of the day. Professionally, that kind of performance is something that's owed to people. That's what entertaining is all about in the profession. Whereas in Freemasonry, something that gives me a me to look at, I can still use those skills, the same parameter, same scale, and see what it's got in it for me with my total sense and not half of it. The mosque on the other half, such as entertaining as an artist requires. Right? I am still an artist, creditably, but I'm much a student in the fraternity and the lodge. So the ritual is something I embrace the most, and not so much of the myth of Freemasonry, unless the myth is correct, that the word myth underlines. Okay, for example, we were discussing in the lodge last night. I think last night. Well, no, it wasn't last. Wait a minute. There was a different lodge meeting last night. Earlier yesterday, different lodge meeting I attended. I think it was around noon. I think, or maybe 1 o'clock. Oh, it was 1 o'clock. It was a national lodge meeting, which I'm a member of from Wheaton, Illinois. Love the state of Illinois down there. About the question being, is AI the new myth in the 21st century? And I looked up, I did research, collected notes before the meeting to be more proficient, obviously. And what was interesting is that, according to Harvard University, the myth is not the possibility of AI. The myth is the future of AI. And when I saw it that way, from what I picked up, because that stated, uh, credit to cited Harvard University, that the question is AI the myth, in a way that makes it not specific enough to answer unless you're going to be ridiculous somehow. Eventually, your theory is going to start to crumble beneath your feet because, well, let's suppose AI is the new myth. We've already a myth we're accustomed to, and we're aware ever so often, as I um, understand this context correctly. If not, do call the number I've already availed and correct me. Feel very free and welcome to do that. We already have a myth, and we're aware that ever so often it's replaced hmm, by something else. So we don't change myths; we get a new one. Because the question is AI the new myth of the 21st century? And this, I knew it a week ago was going to be a discussion, the schedule, the meetings a week in advance. I already knew about it, you know. And Harvard, about the question in general that many obviously are asking, is AI the new myth, the 21st century? It was very looked at like such a broad way of scoping the social world concerning AI, and because it doesn't give us any kind of a point of AI that would give us some gain against the myth, right? And now scholars who've went to educated know the essence of words defining, like myth or theory. And you can well still know that word and its definition if you've not went and studied or practiced any field where it's primarily what you're going to base your statement or your speech on, right? You have a different parameter in which to deal with or yield to it as well, the theory, right? Harvard University said, well, the myth isn't the possibility of AI. And to the question, it's very much asking or alluding or implying that this is about AI in general, as it stated. Is AI the new myth of the 21st century? Harvard University says it's not the possibility of AI is not the myth. The future of AI is the myth. And I could understand that because I study a lot enough literature, read and take it in and find where it impacts me personal life experiences. What makes me read it? Am I reading because I'm bored or I'm escaping boredom? That's not a good reason to read. You're picking up other information. It's very sensitive and fragile. You can't just read to escape boredom. You're feeding yourself a knowledge and intelligence is what it's called. You can't read for no reason. You've got to understand logically there's a cause and effect, a reason for things. So when you read, tell yourself the reason you are reading. You don't make up superfluities or be ridiculous about being the person you are or the person you enjoy being. Right? So the question could have been a little more detailed according to Harvard University. And I appreciated it because in order to, when you talk about AI and you're living here where we have AI, it's going to take more than just a surface worth of research to talk about AI. It's something we've already created. We already know what it is. What is this then? This is the attempt of us to practice, to board education. That's what it is. So it's not an opportunity to prove things right or wrong, good or bad, real or false. It's a chance for you to educate yourself. Educate yourself. And so I made it a point in the meeting uh, because others' input alluded to this as well as it turned out. And there was no surprise because well, we're discussing it. We're going to get deeper than what it is as a question. When it's called delving, when we delve deeper. So it was a nice little platform, carpet road out there, and I did not hear anyone reference Harvard University's take on the same thing. So I shared that. Also gave credit to Harvard University for that inference or opinion, and it did wonders. I said that to say this. Masonry today we're going to talk. I said earlier, I plan to talk. If I have a chance, an opportunity, about the meaning of Masonry. And I like the way Harvard University has divided the philosophy between the psychology to make sociology just as important as figuring out the process of the brain in terms of behavioral patterns and other phenomena that human beings, sophisticatedly encounter. Yeah, and broke down Masonry a little, similarly to the way it's been broken down by Harvard University over its psychology, school of psychology, excuse me, which has practices across the globe, the modern age today. So I want to leave with the idea in terms of meaning of Masonry for today, for something that is going to be live in your city. With compliments of Warner Brothers, Syndicate Commercial, Comcast Recordings. Locally here, we would just call it Blazing 102.3. Regionally, maybe Cumulus Media or throughout the syndicate, or the for purposes of advertising. Um, uh, it's also a positive spell of the Harvard University uh, history, its establishment, what it's done, for people, you know, over time as a university, and that is, I suggest we it's well considered in Masonry implications based on history, documents about Freemasonry, our own fraternity publications, many of them under the charters and independent bodies have publications. Annual, some of them only annual, some quarterly, some monthly. It varies. It's at random. But I want to suggest we consider as well as what I'm buckled in to learn from others about it in terms of philosophy and Freemasonry. To be something that it could be about building things. In turn, we could define it. What's the meaning of masonry? What does it mean? And of course, definition and meaning are not synonymous, if you ask me. Right? It's like saying business, saying company. If you're your own business, you're your own company. That's not synonymous. That's not saying the exact same thing. Um, Operative masonry and speculative masonry are not synonymous. Applied masonry and speculative masonry are not synonymous. Uh, so then applied masonry and operative masonry would not be synonymous. We could get very mathematical some other time. I agree. Um, but I want to go somehow theosophy versus philosophy. Entertainment, me, remember. So I don't want to offend anyone or disrespect anyone, right? Um, but I want to say masonry, just to make a point first, in a way that really is defining masonry. And it's not talking about what masonry means. It's to say that it was the building of things with bricks and stones, right? And these tools, a square, a level, a chisel, a hammer, these things to build this building, to construct it. Uh, Not talking architecture, construction. Yeah. So that's masonry. Yeah. In the conventional, organic context, if you will. But let's be speculative about it. So we don't want to make it all happen in one day, are we? Uh, Masonry is something that's created whenever a mason is working, right? It's not ever a finished thing, right? Masonry, in other words, then is a point between the beginning and the end, right? Um, and then once there is the end, it's now a lodge or a temple. It's a building now, right? So I want to suggest we consider to look at meaning of masonry in those two ways, because one of them is kind of the catalyst into accept the other as the truer intellect of others. I don't know, but definitely compared to building and bricks and like what's a definition or something. The better, a more knowledgeable answer. Okay, to such a question. Okay, if you were talking to a mason or a sister, the Eastern Star, the chapter. So, um, I'm going to offer that because, interestingly, in our world outside of the Freemasonry lodges, we're trying to talk, debate on AI. It's like, well, you create these things and then, or you've not gotten the permission of everyone or the acceptance of everyone before you've created it. So it doesn't seem like it's truly a human product when two parties arguing about it. One says, well, based on the work, it's great. And another comes without having put any work into it and says it's not great. Well, how do you make sense of this? How would you know it's not great if you never worked on it? This is the only way the great architect of the universe knows us, because he created us. You see how we battle against evil. right? And wickedness, the wrong things, unethical things, because we know that as an entity that did not create us, right? And there's some self conviction for those who proclaim the boldness before the grand architect of the world in their own private closets, isn't it? We'll soon, right? Uh, rather than try to stretch out the all-seeing eye and find where they are. Actually, God's greatest at doing it, the only one who can, who will as well, mind you. So, um, AI is a thing. I don't know. With a nation, with a commander in chief, but not everybody supports a commander in chief. Well, what do you expect happens to your nation? You're going to lean it all on the side of the party that supports it, the candidate. What percentage of lean do you have? You don't support the candidate yourself. How can you venue the party that supports the candidate if you don't accept the candidate? See, you can't skip your way around the Lord's world. You already here. You've been here, the little baby. Uh, 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 and so, with these things to go around, and lots of us in the fraternity are secondary educated as well. Some of us are engineers. We all really delved in deep in the center of the controversy surrounding AI. And you know, 1/3 of our 24-inch gauge. Um, these things happen, and it's a way of life for those who debate. Yeah. Um, so the way that Harvard University put it, inspired me to look at the meaning of Freemasonry. 'Cause that's very meaning of Masonry, excuse me. Well, that's very broad. We've history, you know, at least from beginning of 1717. That will take us instance by instance, case and point. One day at a time, one cup of water, one cup of tea at a time, one sip at a time, one swallow carefully at a time. To today, where we know we exist and we have day by day. Um, to inciting about the degrees of Freemasonry. I'm going to try and keep it philosophical because personally, I would word questions a lot more challenging, a lot more difficult. Uh, and that would require the engaging of critical thinking skills, not just critical thinking itself. The professionally recommended stage process to conduct, perform, or practice critical thinking, right? Um, um, the Masonic Service Association of North America, recognizing members, the MSA, NA, are very interesting bulletins that come in to me. I enjoy it. And those things, and on the Facebook group of our MSA and um, entity, component for masonry, my personal opinion, that brothers share. You some of us have been in this fraternity longer than others. Some of us have some really, really impressive souvenirs and regalia to share, to show, to present. Yeah, we learn a lot from it. Yeah, seeing where they've been in this fraternity and stuff like that. The civility service, which I guess it's debatable if it's really a part of Freemasonry or not, but at any event, at any rate, is a service that only serves Freemasonry. Uh, I think of volunteers in the Civil War, etc., that would volunteer and not want any money to obtain freedom in the land. Uh, That's the essence of the civility service. And its choice to serve, it does not go outside of Freemasons, the Freemasonry fraternity. And so I will also thank you as well. I'm a member of the civility service too. Um, hmm. Idaho Lodge of Research, number 1965. The most worshipful Grand Lodge of ancient, free, and accepted Masons, the state of Idaho jurisdiction, recognized today. And those are brethren as well of mine. I'm a member of the Idaho Lodge of Research, number 1965. And uh, we've a phenomenal library. Yeah. And the lodge got a lot of stuff, a lot of different ways Freemasonry has been broken down componentially. You can go into each one a separate file and learn about it, or itself in Freemasonry, and then a different structure of Freemasonry. You can learn about all about it and not have to research Freemasonry or Idaho Lodge Research. Although there is a file on just Idaho Freemasonry and that history of Idaho and Freemasonry establishing it in its Grand Lodge in Idaho. Those are interesting things to learn about for me, by the way, because that is all in this country, North America, uh, and it's about how the states developed, space for lodges, where there are lodges in the states, and that's yeah, it basically is the same if you were looking at the Grand Lodges. Uh, that's all in the east, but I guess it's a lot more that is relevant or perhaps pertinent to you in your own respective country when you're learning Freemasonry as it's come about within your country. Then you're talking about those socioeconomics that you can relate to, or those politics that you are aware of, the religions that you're aware of, the traditions that the culture majority percentage embraces. Um, you know, government is the biggest thing. Yeah, it gives you an idea of how government has principled things in your nation. Yeah, when you get into a component of your nation history, like Freemasonry, that has its own history. Early, some have cast the date earlier than the 18th century. And so I enjoy the Idaho Lodge of Research 1965 library because it offers some stuff brothers have researched and found. These guys have to be scholars to have found this somewhere. Library, you got to have looked at it somewhere to find it about Idaho and Freemasonry and how it came about. Same thing as in Illinois. I think each jurisdiction has its own uh, history on its Grand Lodge. Yes, of course. Uh, but each jurisdiction does not run identically the same through its ordinances of provisions, right? During its sanctions, right? Because government is governing over the people, rule the democracy, and that type of government, a democracy government, the people rule. So it's in a loose wire, no pun intended. Um, but so that no juris, well, it's not. You ain't hear me making them announcements. It's not guaranteed that every or two jurisdictions are going to be identical in the ways they operate, right? So because of this, each jurisdiction, I imagine, and of course, has its own version of how it became Masonic, how it came into Freemasonry from the Grand Lodge, from the Mother Lodge in England. Yeah. All right, so um, you know, I'm thankful to the Idaho Masons and Eastern Stars. There's a lot to value about it. You can go across the world with Freemasonry. You can stay in your local community with Freemasonry. You can think about your state. What these things do is equip you to become influential in your jurisdiction, to be able to impact your community. You have a handle on something, right? When you've learned how Freemasonry has become to exist in your state, in your city, from where you'd be learning it right where you sit at. It could be in the privacy of your own home in the modern age today, um, with the internet. And it is a live wire channel cable as well still. As sure as there are still real electricity poles that people are bidding on or gambling over uh, in the world today. Yeah. So you can learn where you can be of service. Instead of that, you can just generally be of service. Well, that's common sense. If you're at this age, that's common sense. But Freemasonry, for example, among other perhaps other organizations that exist, may not be Masonic related at all. Through them as well, through anything that has to do with you engaging and impacting your community. eh? Those are venues through which, or assemblies rather, through which you can learn where you can arrange major change. Not where you should or you will or you maybe will might work better. But these are places where you can't go wrong because voluntary you learn, as it is as a human being, only you going to know whether you really are retaining something or not. Some pass the exams and some fail, and the reason why is because some concentrate more on how important it is to retain than others, right? Than the latter, and that's the score. One fails and one passes. So uh, when you're voluntary, then we're to assume that you've your full concentrated mode on because it's all accounted by your own intuition or premonition. And so, that being said, you should be learning something that is going to highlight what you're already capable of doing, community. Therefore, presumably is a little inspiration, just some extra energy. And I frankly would say Freemasonry is a pretty good quality of energy. To get engaged in your community. It don't have to be across the world in a different country or in a foreign land or speaking foreign language. Freemasonry is all about making good men better. Yeah, I, and so um, we are going to appreciate the brothers in Cameroon, Ivory Coast, here in Florida City. Um, um, Canada, Germany, you name it. We love it all. We faith in the great architect of the universe, hope for salvation and charity among all men as Freemasons. And we love children as Shriners, those of us who are Shriners. Um, you know, and we're not hitting pockets. We're not asking them to pay for service, right? These are buildings that have been built by masons, which now are in hospitals. from the foundation to the wall, the framework throughout it. Before the electricians have even a schedule to come in and wire up anything. Before the plumbing are even scheduled to come and hook up any water. Before the cities, sank the tank underground, the septic tank, for water, etc., sewage. Yeah. Before the interior decorators have come in to decide where furniture is going to go, how to furnish this building indoors, excuse me, right? Because inside and indoors not synonymous either. Neither are outdoors or outside. They're not synonymous. They're two different words. It shows they're in the dictionary with different term. Okay, so before any of the other people who play a part in the convenience of masonry plays the part, masonry is in action. It's the building. It's not the electrical. It's not the water. It's not the sewer. It's not the furniture. Masonry is about constructing the building, the foundation, eh? The walls and the ceiling and the floor, and that's it. If your walls are 38 by 26 for 12 inches, and then from 12 to 82 inches becomes a 32 by an 81, over whatever mathematical scale of time, not sure how you would run your commerce in and out of the building, what's your commercial floor, um, but geometrically speaking, that is still just the building. Okay, it can look just like it and be the building without any electrical. You can see it during daylight hours, when you can see without electrical light, yeah? Or hot light. You can see it with cold light. Um, uh, and that's you know that's different from 9 p.m., 10 p.m. Eastern, and you're examining the walls in the building to figure it all out. Um, so your choice of words has a lot to do with how people are perceiving your message. If you are conveying the message that's meant to be over philosophical time conveyed with that choice of word series in which you are deriving from some educational scholar or book in a library, you'll speak for you. And so there's got again to some degree a lot to do with today's experience for me when I'm attending this very anticipated event. Again, back to the word on the Shriners. I was taking away a little bit on since I'm looking here in the image of a nice little line. My escape kind of reminds me of a golf course. Outside of my ink book of taking notes on. Um, we've been working, and we currently are working on coordinating lots of fun events and things, barbecues, dinners, uh, golf tournaments, children's golf tournaments. Imagine how fun it is to watch them play golf, huh? Um, there's shooting range for the adults. You must be registered, licensed to carry, etc. Don't bring your firearm loaded. Wait to get to the range to load. We've all those type of provisions. All of it's seamed to the T. But it's different from what's going on between Grand Lodges, what they're disagreeing about, um, you know, how to restore Grand Lodges as a result of this. Yeah? This in Freemasonry is like a pandemic. It's a crisis for us. Eh? We've got to restore and reconstruct our lodges and temples because of whatever it is that has gotten into the mix of it that has severed the relationship with lots of brothers and sisters, eh, among us who are just great with one another. Maybe, maybe post-secondary education is a way to bridge the gap. Maybe some other thing, eh? But the tournaments and things are just a way to get away and enjoy family and enjoy Freemasonry and let applied masonry exist. Uh, that's something we've been doing in at the Hella Shrine with the among nobles. Um, what else? I encourage sisters in the Eastern Star chapter to stay studying the Eastern Star. Stay studying the Eastern Star. Those the points of the star and your position and point upon the point. When you're on the point, what your obligation is in the chapter, and when you're in a different point, what your obligation becomes when you're on that point. It's not what they were, what it is on the other point, right? Because someone else is filling in that gap, and those obligations belong to that person in the chapter, right? Um, Stay studying them. Those women, the Eastern Star chapter is an organization that is based on a biblical um, context or sense, um, and it gets philosophical too if you study deep enough. Study that. I've studied it deep too. But I'm committed to studying it now because that depth is not something I can disclose to any being in person or any other way, frankly. Um, Whether there's a Freemasonry or in the chapter or not, it's not the same derivative of post-secondary education as your common classic post-secondary education institutions, you know, dialogue are. Or like to we've a lot more to say about personal development, um, about self empowerment and empowering others. mm, um, Over your voluntary or leisure time than the post-secondary educational college or university campuses are going to. And so I can't say it and get full to a full, nice, casual social conversation with just anybody. And I talk about the Eastern Star, right? Um, we've learned in Grand Lodges over time and history, Grand Lodges today and have the VSL to open the lodge that suits that culture or that region, okay? The ethnicity of the members of that lodge. Okay? And some Grand Lodges we've come to learn have multiple VSLs because they've that diverse of membership or lodge, excuse me, that diverse of lodge. And some of them are Asian, some of them are North American, some of them are Yugoslavian, some of them um, are Swedish, you know. Uh, so there's a VSL for each. Yeah. And so, the Bible is not the Torah, is not the Quran, right? Uh, the Bible is, surprisingly, it's not everybody's easiest translation, eh? Of of things that we know have taken historic significance. in civilization of and throughout humanity. Um, as those are things that will be are for them, and we've all you know, our comfort zone, yeah, and you know, sometimes we should always be prepared to step out of it, but we always have it, yeah. And so the Eastern Star is based on the Bible, and not just you can't. It's not based on the Quran or the Torah or the other texts or VSLs, right? So I can't either that way have that desired conversation about the Eastern Star, given its history and what it's in terms of symbolism. As ironic as that seems, and as I think it is with anybody, okay? We talk about persons like Ruth, for example, of the Bible. There's the book of Ruth. Uh, we'll learn about Ruth. We'll learn about Esther. Esther's in the Eastern Star. And based on the reason why I really desire to have the conversation about the Eastern Star with anyone, but because of the way society is, we can't have that conversation with anyone. I mean, a social conversation. We sit down like intelligent beings and we talk about it. It's out there. We talk about it. There it is. And it gets personal. People get offended. Uh, and I don't wish to visit that upon someone whom I've initially felt was a good person I could conversate with. So I encourage the sisters, as difficult as it is for the way I understand women emotional, men logical, for women to suppress their emotions and feelings. If sure you want to talk about it, right? Of course. Why can't you want to talk about it? But the way it is circumstances, it's better here. I chose to offer this as a certified worthy patron. Uh, you know, not just a master mason who's not a patron as well. Uh, that would assist when needed the worthy matron of the chapter of the Order of the Eastern Star. I want to sovereignly suggest here as a certified uh, worthy patron by the ancient free and accepted Masons. Eh? Um, that as difficult as it is to study, and it's discouraging a lot of sisters from continuing to be a part of the Eastern Star, especially since social distancing and the coronavirus. We start meeting in person. Lots of brethren left lodges, and a lot of sisters left chapter, and because the life and death, situation, very dangerous. Only the brave have continued this uh, in person. And during that real year of 2020, which I was one of those, because I need the education that much, in my personal opinion, for me. I could afford to not be here today to make sure that the day I am aware I'm here, I'm educated or I'm trying to get there. So, um, yeah, there's not as much as there once was in our history of Freemasonry of encouragement and motivation to discuss and to learn and study what we study, and the reason why and the hows that we do it. But I suggest and consider mm, um, that these words of empowerment reach you, hey, sisters, in the chapters, because the smaller it gets, the better, the more pure it gets. Right? We expanded over a large mission we run all over charity. into the all these grand lodges and these claims to these charters, and that great big subliminal submission of the majority of population that did such a conversion, um, lost a lot out on commerce equity they were already in prominent control of, which they subsided for and participation in Freemasonry or in the Order of the Eastern Star chapter. What realty did in property alone is distinctly distribute them the next advance off of the commercial ratings they were earning off of Freemasonry. Um, and that is the reason that the culinary uh, board of nutritionists designated Freemasonry again another charter into charity. Uh, so um, the the circumstances are rewarding if you've the resilience, yeah, to stick out the trial, the test, and the trial, right? Stick out through what we Masons in the lodge know to be, which what we practice in some of us, tried, test, and worthy. You stick out the trial because that's so factorial in where we are today and why perhaps in theory we might not be so motivated to talk about it, to discuss it, or talk with people at all about ice cream on Sunday even, or a trip to the park or the movies, because we've disagreed on such a psychological basis for human interaction. We're afraid to indulge further into this person's um, psychology, right? Or sociological imagination. So the catch 22 again to this is, as all of this smoke of charity and everything, turns into a restored earth of civilians, of civilization, humanity. We're going to have to eventually collect retribution of what still is the mission of Freemasonry, yeah, and the lodges and the chapters. And it's going to be something engineered by those of us who really have fun in this fraternity, not those who have been admitted in membership, initiated, and have legitimately found out in time to come it's not what they thought it was, and it's not something that they want to do over the lifetime whole of it. All right, they don't want to be a 33rd degree Mason. A second degree is good enough, or a first degree is good enough. I'm done. You know, um, for those that even go beyond the 33rd degree, you go to your 50s, 54th degree, etc. Those are the ones that are going to still be here, as others are just rightfully unjust about having a point of trial and error in their personal life experience, which Freemasonry might be well one of those columns they remember in their own, reflections. Right? And don't be discouraged to study the Eastern Star itself, sisters, in the Bible, even though it's going to make you feel personally connected to people and give you the urge to inert some type of a generation generated intrinsic motivation to someone else to perhaps maybe look on the brighter side than they are at that point in the day. Try something new they've not ever thought about before, considered. The world is full of mysteries and surprise. Eh? I don't want to discourage you or let it be said that I was able to offer you encouragement or suggest something, and I did not. as a as a patron to the sisters in the chapter, and as your matron is doing, right? So but we've a different psychological world in our way that we write the information down that we collect, so that we've a derivation to make, a derision to make from some type of form of deviation, I presume, wherein we are addressing one another as male or female according to gender. We're doing a socialization, and you know, it's been something that we've been doing since birth. Parents gender socialize their children. If the gender is a girl or a female, they're going to socially genderize her by buying her lots of the color pink, because the color pink society is going to deem, and among its mores, is the color of, for the female for a girl out, not the female for a girl. So it switches a little. Um, um, it's going into you know be gender socialized by gender from birth. If it's a male, a boy, he's going to be gender socialized by having to grow as an infant to a toddler, etc., surrounded with the color blue. Until it's something embedded in him by the time he's in grade school. You're gonna have to convince him he's a boy and the reason why he's a boy. Without him having to be perhaps inappropriate or something else for a child that age. To have to talk that kind of a talk, frankly, in my opinion. Uh, but all the well-being is that same boy, same girl, alive, or the same 30, 40, 50-year-old senior and elders in your community that you have today. They've been gender socialized. There's no way you could have ever had anything to do with it. Okay, the parents did. Um, Same way gender socialized, we're racially socialized as well. These are all part of our social structure. Societies are built this way. Organizations are built this way. Large bodies of people are built this way. Cultures are this way. Subcultures happen because of this. Biological essentialism. Um, these things we've got to grit our way through. You've got to have resilience to be able to step outside of your comfort zone, let the theories exist, respect other people's points of views, and stay concentrated on promulgating studies that you prefer to embrace or harness. Those are the things, are theoretical things. They're around us in symbolism. They're around us in civil inattention, in a civil intentative ways, in ways we don't have to speak about. We can gesture the way we feel when we communicate, nonverbal wise, or with kinesics. So, sisters in the chapter, um, you know, I want to suggest to consider um, studying over and over, not just to memorize what they mean, but to continue to study them, not research them or not investigate them, but to study them in the same biblical text we've learned, which is promulgated the admired phrase, study to show thyself approved. Just to study is that important. um, for us sovereign beings that we are noted to be in the democracy. I don't know wherever democracy is risen, but I know it pertains originally to the 13 original colonies, one of which is Florida, where I am hailing from here. Um, and we're in the U.S. Constitution. You know, we're a sovereign people, and we've unalienable rights, and everyone is equal, and that's the way the law is going to work as well. If you don't, embrace it all, then you're not going to get just treatment or just services or just provisions, because you too are parts of the circle. Eh? And there is the eternal circle there and the talisman, along with the other items, if you will, or articles um, that make up that emblem. Um, I do hope you get a lot of your day to day. I'm going to get myself prepared for the meeting. I've got a notification since we've been here about the meeting schedule, because of course I posted it on the calendar, and we're getting closer to that time disclosed early on. And so I will see you again when we meet upon the level of equality, act by the plumb of uprightness, and part upon the square of virtues. From the Kent Duke Masonic Lodge, I'm Brother Williams, PhD, Doctor of Metaphysics, worthy patron. Good day, mate.